Hey everybody, Shane here with Vulgar Display Gaming, coming right back at you with another special guest. We have Michael J. Miller. How you doing, brother? Thanks for joining me today.
Oh, I'm totally happening today. It's a great sunny day and everything is great.
Hey,
Peace
that's
and love.
good. Hey, that's
Yeah.
good. You ain't buried in snow and it ain't raining up in Toronto, right?
Yeah, I've been waiting for days like this.
There you go. Enjoy it. Except, sorry, I
Yeah.
got you stuck inside right now talking to me instead of enjoying the lovely day you got ahead of you.
Well, this is rock and roll, and it's what I do, as you can see in the background. So the rock and roll interviews are part of what I live for. I want to rock and roll.
Hey, that's all we all want to do, right? And rock and roll every day and party all night. Except now I
Yeah.
fall asleep too early.
Yeah. Now my head hurts too much in the morning.
Right. So, I mean, I want to just start off with people who don't know who you are. You're Michael J. Miller. You have your own band right now, MJM, as well as you were also in Rapid Tears back in the day. Is there anything else I'm missing in between there? Studio sessions, jam sessions, what else have you been a part of?
Well, after Rapid Tears, we had, I formed a new band with some of the members from Rapid Tears. Just one, the other guitar player, Clayton Bonin, and we formed a group called Adrenaline, and put out a great album called Dedicated. And we were signed to a German label called, kind of ironic, it was called Long Island Records, which Long Island, as we know, is in New York.
No.
Why they call it Long Island Records, I don't know, but it was a good label, and they managed to get it out all across Europe and Japan and all that. But the album itself never got an American deal.
Isn't it hard to get a North American deal? They were completely different back then because of the markets and
Totally.
everything.
Yeah, like Europe totally supported the hard rock and metal, and they bought it, they ate it right up. It sold really good over there. And then something about the U.S. I think that's right when other forms of music started to take over, like the grunge and then the rap and hip hop, and the labels weren't too excited to hear new rock and metal. It was pretty sad over here, and Canada's even worse. It's too conservative.
Yeah,
You know,
it's even more of a limited market. What's the population in Canada? Like the population of one of our states over here.
30 million, yeah.
Yeah, so you have an
Yeah.
even smaller market out there. But what you have been able to accomplish is your ever-evolving music tastes. You have been doing all sorts of proggy stuff, and especially with your MJM, like even your music videos are getting all weird and getting kind of out there. I love it.
Great, thanks.
You know,
Yeah, we have a new video coming up. Should be out this week, actually. It's a it's a remix of our new single "Live It Up"
with
but
Tim
we
Ripper
have,
Owens.
Yeah, we have Tim Ripper Owens from Judas Priest, KK's Priest, singing lead vocals on it, and it's ripping. So there's a new video that should be up on YouTube this week.
Okay, so that'll be the following week, because this will come out next week. So,
Okay. Well,
yeah.
It'll already be out.
It'll already
Hopefully,
be out. We'll have the link down below for you to check out, because I listened to the song, I listened to the lyric video, and man, it's awesome. I absolutely love it. I think your style of playing, as well as your vocal style, because that's another thing too. You were never a vocalist; you were a guitarist first. And how is that transition in all of this? You're like trying to do double duty now.
Well, it's a lot of stuff to do with playing guitar the way I do, and hitting my foot switches, and then singing those vocal lines, and keeping it all together, leading the band. It's busy. I like doing it. I'm happy to be my own lead singer because I've always been writing the music, but my career has been somewhat it's hit some serious obstacles due to lead singers. You know, example, if a lead singer decides to split, the band's identity is screwed.
Yeah.
If you can find somebody new to replace them, well, it's really hard to replace a lead singer. Like when that happened with Rapid Tears, the singer moved off to Sweden, and we were never able to replace him, and that's why it folded, right?
Especially a lead singer can dictate what kind of genre you're in almost by their style of vocals. And if you don't and if you don't get somebody similar to that, then you're like, ah, damn it. Like, well, I feel like few bands have been able to recover from getting new vocalists, like AC/DC when they got Brian Johnson. Like, that was kind of a home run for them. They were lucky.
Totally.
That was make or break for them. But I totally understand totally understand what you're getting at. A lot of bands, even local bands I know, go through lead singers, or eventually, like you did, a guitarist steps up or a bassist steps up and is like, you know what, we're singing. We're not going to count on another singer.
Yeah. And also, they probably sometimes go through a name change because their whole sound has changed so much that they can't call it the name that everyone thought it was, because it doesn't sound like that anymore.
Exactly. So going off of what you just said, your sound and evolution of all of that, you mentioned your influences were all, obviously, we already know Black Sabbath, some Jimi Hendrix, you got the Beatles, stuff like that. But has there been any recent, like, newer metal bands that you were like, oh wow, these guys are really onto something, that has maybe contributed to your sound, or like, hey, we should start evolving and looking at what they're doing?
Yeah, there have been a few. Like, I don't really want to sing like it too much, but I like what they're playing. I like Dimmu Borgir.
Borgir. They're really good. I like them. I've seen them.
Great heavy stuff.
Yeah.
And then what was the other one I was gonna say? Well, Devin Townsend.
Oh,
you know Devin Townsend?
Yeah, he's great.
Brilliant.
His orchestral, like, all the stuff he puts together. He's just a great musician. There's so many layers to it. Yeah, so many layers to his music.
Yeah. I mean, I've sat and watched one of those full live videos that he's done of the whole show, and it's a real production. You've seen all the extra stage dancers and actors that he has. He even has Steve Vai introduce the show on big screen. It's pretty cool. A lot of thought, a lot of time that he had to put into making that show the way it worked out.
And again, when it comes to these large performances and everything, have you seen that evolved from your time playing? You're like, okay, does it matter if we have a huge performance, or what goes into your entire stage presence nowadays? Can it be simple, or does it need to be complex?
Well, people are entertained by all that complex stuff, but it all means money, right? It means having the bigger venues where you can have the big large screens and whatever. So it's a case of money to put into the production. I mean, you watch that last Kiss show. I mean, think how many thousands of dollars they spent on fireworks alone, right? They probably blew 50 grand on fireworks just saying goodnight.
Yeah.
Right?
It's kind of ridiculous how everything is nowadays, and I know you've even mentioned it when we talk about the markets and how to go about doing all of this. You have to market yourself now as a band, and it's so much time doing all this social media stuff. How do you even find the balance to write music while trying to market yourself now, because labels don't even want to touch a new band or an older band if they have no social media?
You're 100% right about that. Everything you just said there, I appreciate that you thought about that and have brought that up, because the social media, that whole thing has become a double-edged sword. I mean, it is good that artists that aren't signed to a big label are able to get this stuff out there, but it is a huge maze and web of stuff that you've got to cover. And as far as balancing it, like, I have a number of different people that work in promotion, different areas of the promotion, handling different accounts like Instagram or whatever, just my publicity, publicist and whatever, as you know, Benjamin. And but I still find myself, instead of recording music, I'm sitting at my computer being my own secretary night after night. So it has robbed me of my creative time. But the whole thing is, if the name doesn't get out there and if people can't hear the music, then there is no point in making it. And making music
That's
what I've been doing all my life.
Yeah.
So I've got to put the effort into making sure that it's getting out there and people are hearing it. I am signed to a label, but the label itself, I'm looking for a new deal right now. The label can't carry things at the level that I would like them to be.
And isn't that frustrating too? Because I've even spoken to bands. I have buddies' bands who get signed to certain labels, and these labels are so limiting in what they can do unless you get to one of these really, really big labels. But let's face it, in rock and metal, unless you're like Metallica or like Iron Maiden, you're not going to get the best deal anymore, really. A lot of these bands, it's just the label is just for distribution, and maybe it gives you access to promoters in different cities so you could go tour there. But even then, half these bands I talk to, you're on your own with touring. That comes out of your pocket most of the time. I don't even know of any labels that are putting up money for a bus anymore or giving you any per diem. Like, here you go, here's like your food at least. Because bands I know and I've talked to that somewhat are getting to this big point, they're like, we're traveling t-shirt salesmen. That's what keeps us going from city to city at this point.
Yeah, I understand that for sure. You go booking a show like that with 3 or 4 other bands, and you're counting on your ticket sales, and you're splitting it with 3 or 4 bands, and you had to cover the gas and where are the guys sleeping at night. Are they sleeping in the van, or you pay for a hotel, or do you bring a tent, find a campground? It's pretty sad for that,
And
the days of bands touring and being able to afford to destroy their hotel rooms. Well, they don't get hotel rooms anymore.
But I mean, that's the thing. I've talked to seasoned bands, I've talked to seasoned veterans like you, where it was more feasible to do a cross-country tour for, hey, I could be gone 4-6 months out of the year, and the rest I can relax. But now a lot of bands, when I've talked to, for example, I talked to this old 80s thrash band, their singer Norman Skinner of Forbidden, and he was just basically telling me it makes more sense for these bands to do a short, like, hey, let's just do some festivals this weekend, or just do a month-long tour because of how expensive it is,
Yeah.
I mean, how have you seen the evolution of touring just changed from the time you started playing until now? It just seems like, unless you're a bigger band, like I said, you're only doing short tours here and there.
Well, that's how it is. It's hard in a lot of ways, even booking the shows, because to get a great agency that wants to book you, unless you have an FM radio hit with a signed label, they don't really want to book you that much. They're more interested in booking a band that plays Journey and Foreigner in the local pubs, because they know it'll draw a crowd and the agent will get their commission, right? But when it comes to original acts, regardless of being an original artist, which I have been all my life, as I said, unless you have current music on the radio or have had successful hits, they don't really care to get involved. They'd rather book a cover band.
It's just, again, when we were talking about all the social media and everything, it's great that smaller bands can get their music out there. But the downside to that is there's so much music out there. You could release an EP or release whatever, but now it's like almost Spotify dictates who's big and who's not. And nobody's listening to full albums anymore. I have tons of vinyls. I love putting on a vinyl, listening to the whole thing. But now if you don't have a good single, or I've even noticed singles for albums are getting released almost like a year in advance now, because you need to play that one single all the time. It's no point of just waiting till the last minute now. It's just, we're going to release like 5 or 6 singles from the album.
Yep. And believe it or not, we're following suit with that whole thing too, because, as you mentioned, if you wait till the last minute when everything's ready, there's been 2 or 3 years of void time that you were producing the album that the public heard nothing new from you. It gives them a lot of time to forget about you. So keeping a new single coming out as often as you can get one. Keeps your name a little more on top. But I'm completely, as you said, I like a full album. I mean, that's what I grew up with. When you got that new Led Zeppelin album, you didn't get it because of one song when you heard Dire Maker or something like that. You got it. You looked at the album, the artwork, and you listen to the whole thing, and the whole album is an experience, and it's an actual offering from that group, from that whole time era of their life as an artist, right? And getting it in one package is really the way I think rock and roll really became, and hard rock really became what it is, because people got to know the band by taking in that full album, putting on that new Kiss album, Destroyer or whatever, and taking the whole thing in. You really got to relate to them. If you'd only heard one song off that album, you wouldn't have felt the same way as you do when you're at the end of the album. And I'm still a strong believer in that. But as you said, a lot of people, younger kids, they don't even know what an album is. I said that to a kid about an album. I said, "Have you heard that album?" He looked at me with his face like, "Huh?" I go, "You know what an album is, right?" He says, "You mean like a playlist?" I said, "No, it's not a playlist. Anybody can make a playlist of someone else's songs. An album is a collection that the band put together, and it's the music that they found all fit and congruent to go as their offering of that period in their career, right?"
Yeah, because it even seems like you said, bands are releasing singles just to stay relevant. Well, I see a lot more bands releasing EPs in between albums. Like, they'll write a bunch of songs. They're, all right, we got an EP. This will be like 5 songs. We'll release 5 songs at once. And then, we'll release another single in a few more months. And then we'll have a full length come out in like 2 years or something. But it just seems like, I don't want to say bands are rushing their music, but it seems like you have to nowadays in order to stay relevant, to stay on top of everything. Do you think that's hurting some, like, the creative process as a whole sometimes, with bands just trying to keep releasing stuff?
You're 100% right about that. Is what is happening. It's certainly changed things, but the sad thing that we know is that younger people don't know what albums are anyways. So we might as well let them have the songs, and they're going to put it on a playlist mixed with 20 other bands. And I would really like to see the recognition of an album become more important to people that are buying music, because that's when you really get to know the group, when you hear that whole collection from that time, right?
Well, I mean, I can at least say with our genre, heavy metal, at least we're a die-hard fan base, because
totally,
that's what I think keeps a lot of this scene alive. If we're not buying shirts, we're buying merch. I'm buying vinyls still. I think it's just, in a whole, the music industry has become a singles market. That this pop band can release a single, and then, like, their album comes out in 8 years and everybody buys 1 billion copies of it still,
Yeah.
But when it comes to
funny. It's funny, the industry, like, I work as a music teacher in a big establishment, and there's like 500 guitars hanging there. And if I was to ask this question, what style of music do you hear the guitar most in? It's metal, right? Right? Any other style, the guitar is a little bit in the background, or it's not quite as significant as with rock and metal. That's guitar-based music, right? So all these guitars are for sale, and what kind of music are the people hoping to play when they're looking at the most attractive guitar on the wall because of its paint job or something, right? What are they planning to do with that guitar? That's one thing I really have to say about hard rock and metal, is it brought guitar to the forefront. And it could be a wide crossover, anything from like, Johnny Winter, who wasn't metal, but I mean, he was certainly rock and roll blues and a great guitar player, right? And I like guitar music where the guitars are ripping and solid and crunchy. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
think anybody who's in there looking at guitars is usually interested in that. Maybe a few of them are into country twangy guitar, but or jazz or something. But really, um, I see it with the guitars that are on the wall. There, a lot of them are metal guitars, right? So as far as guitar sales go, not that I'm a guitar salesman or anything, but it's the rock music that keeps the guitar building industry going more than anything, because everyone hears it and they would love to sound like that, big and blasting and blow the roof off, you know?
Well, I mean, I hope so. Unfortunately, I don't know if you heard, but I guess one major chain of, guitar sellers, Sam Ash, that's closing. So it kind of that sucks when it comes to musical instruments too. I hope
That is bad news.
Yeah, I hope we still keep the physical playing going. A lot of people are moving to, like, now you could just create, hell, there's even AI music my buddy was showing me. You could type something in, it'll write a whole song for you, instruments and everything. Insane stuff going on.
I had that thrown at me this weekend. I have a friend who was telling me about AI. Now, he is not a musician at all. He's a smart guy, but he can't play a note. He doesn't know an A from a G, right? And or where it is or what it sounds like. But he said, "Look, I'm going to show you." And in 24 hours, he came to me with his laptop computer, and he had this whole song written about my girlfriend. He called it Michael and Susan, and it was this beautiful love song. And it was, the lyrics were really good, and it sounded like they used a sample of Larry Gowan. Lawrence Gowan.
No,
Sound
no,
like
no.
they used his voice. You're a strange animal. That singer. Yeah, it sounded like they used a sample of his voice, and he'd put this whole song together with all these sophisticated chord changes and all this stuff, and the lyrics were written really well, and the whole song was put together, and it's all just, it's totally fake, right? But it doesn't, to a person who's not a musician, they wouldn't know the difference. It sounds like music,
Isn't
right?
that crazy, though? That's the time
It's
we're
scary.
living in. Yeah, because here's the
Yeah.
scary part, too. Like you were saying, it was like almost they're sampling another person's voice. All of this AI, it's machine learned. So there's people feeding licensed music into this machine, and it's just copying that and altering it. So, because I have some artist friends, and I talked to them, and they said, hey, this style of art, when you generate an image, is similar to this artist. Because all these images, all this music, all this stuff is getting fed into the machine. So it comes to the point where hopefully, how do you know they're not sampling your music? And shouldn't you get royalties for that? You're like, you're taking my music and feeding into this machine. This is stealing from me,
Yep. They're getting that information from everywhere, and like the database that AI, it must be huge to put all that stuff into it, because I can't believe how incredibly sophisticated.
And this is just the
that
beginning
prompt
of
can
it.
be.
This is just the
I know.
beginning of it all. So
It's scary.
I talked to a buddy. I had him on, and he's an artist, and he talked to me about it. He was like, what's scary is this is going to turn people off from even wanting to draw. It's going to turn people off from even wanting to make music. Because if you could just boop, 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 pop out a song of whatever you want to listen to, now you don't need to wait for your favorite artist to make a band or like a new album. You could just say, make an album in this style of this band with these lyrics and make your own music.
Yeah.
It's
The next thing I'm afraid of in this regard is when one of those songs, completely AI generated, makes it as an FM radio hit.
which I could see that happening. Which
That's
is scary. That's scary. It's scary and it's sad because that's going to discourage a lot of musicians from trying to play music, which sucks. So,
granted, I do have another little turnaround point. I asked the guy, I said, okay, that was a pop song. Now ask your AI to write a heavy metal song.
that's
So
yeah.
I had him Okay, and he came back 24 hours later with a heavy metal song, and it was pretty crummy, right?
Yeah.
The sounds weren't there. They didn't have the guitar sounds right, and it was a crummy arrangement. It's like they thought that they should put these scary chords together and these kind of crummy voices, and it wasn't
Nope.
good. The pop stuff was okay, I guess.
It's a lot more it's a lot more simple.
Yeah.
You know, because like my buddy, he wrote a little metal song too, and I was like, this is kind of shitty, but it's scary once this gets better. You know?
Yeah, that's true too. That's what I was thinking.
Because the thing is, yeah, because it was trying to do all these scales, you know, like somebody shredding, but it didn't sound right at all. The different tones, because I guess with heavy metal, you have a bunch of pedals, you have a bunch of effects, people have their own guitar tones, guitar and bass tones are different. Pop songs usually follow the same similar structure because they're simple. It's simple music. It's supposed to be catchy. So you could get away with an AI pop song. But I think metal is gonna be a while before they can, you know, unless you take it all apart and do it, you know, separately.
Yeah, they'd have to get really good at sampling the best guitar sounds, and then playing too. Like that's always been the hardest thing to synthesize. Example, you can like with a synthesizer keyboard, you can find great sounds for orchestra, strings, and all brass and all that. But when it comes to guitar sounds in a synthesizer, they're not real, and you can tell they don't sound real. They sound pretty cheesy, and that's the one thing about a good guitarist is their good sound comes from the equipment they've designed plus their own fingers, their own playing, right? Like, why does Tony Iommi from Black Sabbath sound like he does and no one else sounds like him?
Yeah.
It's his fingers. It's the way he plays. And that's what a good artist should be. And, man, that should never be replaced. And it would be sad if they actually do get up to par with that.
Yeah,
there will be no point in being a real musician.
That's what I'm afraid of. It. Speaking of sound, I noticed you have some cool Marshall gear back there. A lot of older gear. Can you talk to us about some of your gear that you like using? The sound that you like to get out of this stuff.
Yeah, the Marshalls you see in the background. I don't know if you were familiar with the original Marshalls that had the gray checkered grill cloth.
Silver Jubilees, right? No, that's the...
Well, they were for quite some time. Marshall never had black grill cloth. They were always gray checker. Like if you look at old Jimi Hendrix videos, you'll notice it's a gray grill cloth. Well, that's what these were. And when Marshall came up with the black grill cloth, it's when I was in Rapid Tears. I said to the other guitar player, I said, you know what? Let's open up our Marshalls and take the speakers out and spray paint the grill cloth black, and then put the speakers back in. He went, yeah. So we took all our cabinets apart and spray painted them all, and then put the speakers back in, and we had these new looking Marshalls, right? But really, they were all the gray ones, just looking more modern. But one thing you can tell is that the size of the logo on the top of that head. That's an original Jim Marshall product it's called a Super Lead 100, right? And it's the same model that Jimi Hendrix used. Right? Wow. Yeah, that's like a 1970, 71 or 72 head, right? So I've got, that's wicked, that stuff.
Yeah.
But it's limited to, it has one channel, it has one sound, it's heavy, right? So your clean sounds that you almost have to A/B it to another amp, a switch to, if I want cleaner sounds, got to go to a different amp. The stuff on that side, that's all gold, that's Marshall too, and the bottom gold unit is a stereo 200 watt RMS power amp, and it's a power amp for the Marshall preamp up above it, which is really ace too. It's expensive stuff, and it's capable of all sounds. There's 100 channels in it that you can set, for whatever sounds you want. And so between those two, it's really great. But I also have the new Marshall, what is it?
ACM
VHT.
2000? No.
I think it's called VHT or something like that. Four.
They have all these weird names.
Yeah, they do. I don't know even why they use those letters, but it's a 4-channel amp and it's MIDI programmable, so I can line it up with my effects to pull up. Each channel can be different with every effect. It's really cool. You can kind of set each channel to read whatever your MIDI programming is. So I'm able to get a lot of different variety out of those 4 channels with the effects and how it programs the internal workings of the channel.
Is that's
So
one?
basically,
Yeah.
when I'm going through a live set, I have about 3 or 4 different settings that I have made just for that song. So I may go through about 30 programs when I do, say, a 12 or 14 song set, and each preset is made for that section of the song. So I've got the tone and like even the delay going right in time with the beat of the song.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, all that sort of stuff. The chorus or phasing is set in time, which is stuff you can't really do with little pedals. This is digital stuff. Yeah, and it's got it all memorized. So whenever I hit the sound, the preset for that section of the song, I've got the ideal sound designed for that one section.
And to me, it's just crazy because, again, I know guitarists and everything. They do the same thing. They all have their old school amps and everything. And then you combine it with all this new technology, and they just get these amazing tones. Have you ever, like, from you starting off playing to where everything's gotten now, and you're still using your old amps, how do you see everything just in the guitar world's changed?
Oh, it's changed a lot. It's funny. There are some guys that still like the little using little pedals and whatever, and that's cool. But it's pretty nice the way I'm able to get a lot of variety in the tones for the different sections, as I was describing, and that's something that was a lot harder to do when I was just using the say that one head. It was one sound. Say like you go see Kiss, and their guitar tone doesn't really change from the beginning to the end of the night, other than they may turn their volume down to play the intro of Black Diamond.
Yeah.
Right? Other than that, it's brrr, right? And all night. And that's cool. And that's what that head will do. But as you know, metal has a lot of different tones and moods with it. And it's nice to be able to get those different tones now with the way the circuitry is programmable.
How many times have you had to change out, like, with the amp bulbs and everything in those back there? You know,
the tubes.
Yeah, the tubes.
Yeah, they're expensive. Yeah.
You got to keep them alive, though, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
So that's how you get your sound. But what are some of your favorite guitars you like to play? Has that changed? Do you have any of your guitars that you played back in the day that you're like, yeah, I'm never getting rid of this?
Yes, I do. It's funny. My first real pro guitar was a Gibson SG, and that's what I used for all the Rapid Tears albums. But there was a certain period in making one of the albums where I thought I really wanted a whammy bar, but I only own the one professional guitar, and SGs don't really come with good whammies. You can get a Bigsby put on them, but they don't really work that good. They don't work like a Strat. You can't do, you can't go way down like that. But anyways, I had the technician find a vibrato system that he could build onto my SG, but he had to hollow out a chunk of the body in order for it to line up so the action was correct across the whole 22 frets. And so I had that done. So I kind of had my SG butchered in order to put a vibrato system on it. And then later on, I found a white Strat. It isn't on my wall, but I got into playing Strats, and once I had it set up so it really worked right, I really loved the way the vibrato you could do so much more with it than the vibrato I had put on a Gibson. And once you become inclined to using the vibrato and know how to work it into your style, it's a drag to not have it. So I found a guitar builder in Toronto here. His name's Bob Wojcik, and he builds like A1 guitars, and he sells them all around the world. He'll build you a Les Paul or whatever you want. But I have like these ones here. This Strat. This is designed.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
The 1962 American Strat is designed after that, because Strats did change the different contouring of the body and the shape and the thickness. And this thing is light. It weighs maybe about 7.5 pounds.
Oh wow,
you know,
that's nice.
And yeah, I don't like heavy guitars. And this thing, it's great. I've done hundreds of shows with it, and I've been using it for all my last albums. I've got 6 of them made now.
Oh wow.
The newest one I have made is this one here. Just got it this summer. Nice paint job on it.
Man, that's beautiful.
Yeah, that's the newest one.
Nice.
So, but I have 2 more at the at our rehearsal studio, and so all my guitars now are custom built, because I get them all made to be the same, so that I have to have a spare guitar for each guitar I use on stage in case I break a string. There's no time to change a string during a set.
Yeah.
You have to have enough ready to go, right? So any guitar that I'm going to use, I have to have a double of. And I have very often had to grab a spare because something happens on stage, right? So I've got 5 or 6 of these, right? Yeah.
No, that's
nice.
Awesome. And it could tell that your evolution of your sound has changed with all this new equipment, all these new guitars you got going on. How about your songwriting process compared to Rapid Tears? To your last album was MJM 4, right? Yes.
Yeah, MJM 4 is our last full-length album. That's right.
How do you
think? We're working on that one.
Yeah. How do you think your songwriting capabilities have changed since then?
I am a bit influenced, but I've always been influenced by other stuff that I hear, different artists. I mean, back in the day, Judas Priest was my #1 favorite band, and Iron Maiden when I was in Rapid Tears. So like, you kind of learn from different groups, but I've always written what comes naturally to me, and it's funny. My band names have changed, but I've always just been writing whatever I write. So I never really try to write like another group. I just write what comes to me, and I'm my own artist, right? I'm a heavy rock, heavy metal artist, and one thing I haven't really done is went for the vocal style of that type of singing. There's maybe, yeah, I've never really done that. I try to keep her vocals kind of vocal, like real singing. And there's a chick in our band, Stephanie Dudas. She does the high notes. That was something you mentioned about taking on the lead singer role. It was difficult in the sense that, example with Rapid Tears in that era, the tenor vocalist, the high vocalist, the vocalist that could sing like AC/DC or Freddie Mercury, that was almost like critically essential if you wanted to be a rock artist. You had to be able to hit those sky screaming notes. And well, it's not as important now. As you can tell, the range of singers, they don't even hit notes like that unless you're listening to Priest. So it made it easier for me to become the vocalist, because I know how to sing cool and in tune, but I'm not a super high tenor, right?
Yeah.
So I have a chick that can do the high notes for me and still add them to our albums and our live show.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So speaking about live shows, well, first, we want to mention your new album you were just about to talk to. How is that coming along? When are we going to see that?
Well, things are moving along. They're moving along slowly because we've had some delays. We released Live It Up was our first single from our new album, and we put that out. I'm the singer, and it's got me on it. And then we got the opportunity to get Tim Ripper Owens featured on that track. And I sent it to him, and he said, yeah, I love the tune. I'd be happy to sing on it. So we got his vocals, and of course that took more time to remix it and get it all right and get it out. And now, just this week, actually, there will be the new video with a new video it's a lyric video for the Tim Ripper Owens version of Live It Up. So moving beyond that, there is new music written, and it's I record I write in this facility, right in this room. This is my home studio. You can't really see the recording gear, but I write all the songs in here. And MJM 4 was actually recorded in this studio.
Oh wow!
But yeah, the Live It Up song, and you can probably hear the texture of the recording. That was done at my producer's studio, and he did produce the album here, but he has different vintage gear. Again, we're going back to the old, really Class A stuff. He owns a lot of that gear, and that's why the sound of Live It Up is so full and huge sounding, because we use his studio. So the rest of the new album is going to be recorded in the same studio that Live It Up was recorded in. So that's it's moving along, but there's a lot of stuff to do. I keep a roof over my head because I work as a music teacher, right? So that uses up 4 days of the week. I'm teaching kids how to go point, point, point. No, I teach them how to go after about 10 years of, well, if they're lucky. But yeah, lots of students that I teach and help out. It's nice to be able to help.
That's awesome, because you're giving back to the community. You're keeping rock alive in a different way too, not only by making new music, but by teaching the next generation. And that's what I want to do, uplift artists. I want to highlight you, highlight everybody. You're teaching kids. This is how we keep this going,
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. And the one thing that I have to go through with every student that comes in, I have to ask them, what music do you listen to? And I get some answers that kind of make my jaw drop at times. Some of even as bad as, I don't listen to music, or I listen to, you're here to learn guitar, but you don't listen to music? That's difficult. Okay, and then I'll get other answers like, I listen to this and that, and I'll say, well, there's no guitar in that music. You just played me a song, I couldn't hear a guitar in there. How are you going to learn the guitar or want to play a guitar when you're not even hearing one and don't know how they're supposed to sound, right? So I always encourage my students to take interest in bands, real bands that have guitars in them that you can hear the guitar. I said, if you can't hear a guitar in that song, I prefer if you didn't ask me to try and teach it to you. I can show you what the chords are, but there's no guitar in it, right? There's a lot of stuff like that where it just baffles me, right? And so I kind of head them in a new direction and say, you got a guitar, your parents are paying for your guitar lessons, but you should start listening to guitar music. You'll learn from what you hear, and you'll find it to be pretty cool.
That's
rock and roll.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing too. It's like there's a lot of bands in metal and rock that I'm not interested in, but I can't say they're bad bands. But I know people who listen to other kinds of music. I say, hey, if you want to get into heavy music, like check out this band, or this is easy listening. It's not something I'm into, but you might like it, and then you just start them off that way. My first exposure to heavy metal in general was Metallica's Garage Inc., which was their covers album. And I didn't know it was a covers album as a kid. And then
Right.
once I figured it out as a covers album, I realized I didn't like Bob Seger. You know, but I'm just like, throw out Budgie. You had like, you know, Blitzkrieg. You had the Misfits on Thin Lizzy on there. There were so many great bands that it just opened my whole world to, where I felt like, because I'm not that young and I'm not that old. I'm only 31, but it's like I was like some of the last generation right before the internet. I remember when the internet was still taking off. So then I was pulling my mom's CDs, listening to that, and that helped me listen to full albums and everything. And now, with the internet, it's kind of, you know, like we said, all these bands putting out so much music, it's so hard to, like, it's a blessing and a curse because there's so much to absorb. But
you said it.
It gets to a lot. But that's why I enjoyed, you know, listening to full albums, because if I didn't have Metallica, I wouldn't have had my taste in everything, because I listen to everything. This is like even a death metal shirt right here it's called Frozen Soul. This is a newer band from Texas.
Okay.
They're one of the newest, like one of the bigger death metal bands coming out. And then, you know, I'm into Iron Maiden, and I'm into Journey still, and all of this stuff. And that's what this is all about, is just absorbing rock and heavy metal and just looking at all these genres and just trying to help as many people get into it as possible.
That's right.
So with all that said, you're teaching kids, you're getting the next guitar axeman and axewoman out there, the next shredder going. How do you see what your impact is? How do you want to be remembered as MJM and your, you know, legacy?
Well, I guess the main thing is that I'm from Canada, and that's difficult already because Canada has never really had a big metal band.
Exciter, Anvil.
That's about it. We did some tours with Exciter, and that's about it. There's Rush, if you can call them.
Rush. That's like
Rush
probably the biggest rock band, probably. Yeah.
But it's a hard zone to crawl out of. I mean, this one show we were going to do just on the other side of the border in Buffalo, USA. We were going to do it with Venom, and unfortunately, something happened with one of the guys that in Venom getting across the border or whatever, and the concert got canceled. And it was a big show. It was you know going to be 10 or 20,000 attendees, and when the crowd waiting to go into the show found out the show was canceled, a major riot happened, and the people at the border, customs, they basically held us hostage for 4 hours. Well, I mean, it was cool. They said, okay, you guys, you're not going anywhere, what they said. Because we were coming across the border with our gear to do the show, and they said, no, you're not. And you guys are going to wait right here. Really? We're wondering, oh, man, what's up? We're going, what's going on, man? Why aren't you letting us through? And they told us, well, the show is canceled. You won't be playing. This is the U.S. border. They're telling us we won't be playing. And you got to wait right here. That's it. And we were just being held there at the border, kind of twiddling our fingers. It really sucked. Because it would have been a great show. And about 4 hours later, they said, okay, things look okay at the concert site now. Because we said, you know, we want to go to the arena and at least meet the promoters and whatever and see the place. And so they said, okay, well, things have cleared up. The police have dispersed the riot, and you can go through the border now and go check out where your show was supposed to be. And so, yeah, really, what a story. And we got there, and there was obviously a serious maniac riot. I mean, everything had been overturned, all the garbage cans, benches, and tables, and picking. The garbage was knee deep across this whole field to get up to where the stage was, right? And oh man, so the promoter, he was hiding. We were looking all over for it. He was probably terrified when he saw what was going on, and knew the show was canceled, and he had to worry about giving back the money for all those tickets too, right? And yeah, so it was good to actually find the guy who's going like, oh wow, man, it's you guys. Wow, geez, so glad to see you. Really sorry about what happened. And yeah, that was pretty funny. Well, when you look at it now, it is funny. But at the time, it was very disappointing, right? But that was an example of being offered a show on the other side of the border. And it's a lot of hassle to get over the border for a band like us, because you have to have visas,
Visa, certain amount of dates
manifests of
booked
your
and everything.
equipment. Yeah, that's right. You have to have a number of union book dates booked, like a dozen or so, and it's got a proof. It's all got to be true and real, and you got to come through for those border officials. Say, okay, you guys can get through here. So, we're kind of locked up here in Canada, and other than the internet and getting our music out on the radios, college radios and whatever. So to answer your question, what would I like to be remembered for? I've been a lifelong music artist, and I like my music. I think it's great, and
Yeah.
and I just want people to know that I write this music for them. I write this music so people can headbang and rock and roll and enjoy the sincerity of the songs and the way I play the guitar and the concepts that each song introduced lyrically, right? I think that's really the goal of every artist. I'm not doing it to pick up chicks or whatever. I'm not even doing it for the money. It would be nice to make some money from it, but it's been a business that has cost me. I'm not dead, but it's cost me my life. I spent my whole life doing it, right? And I've given my sincere 100% whole heart all my life into this business, into this art form. And I still do it, and I still play my guitar like that too, right? And I love getting on the stage. So whenever you get the chance to see MJM or listen to us, keep that in mind. I'm doing it for the sake of rock and roll, and I want to keep metal alive, right?
Hell yeah. That's all we want to do. And that being said, though, do you have any Canadian tour dates coming up? Any local shows you got booked? Anything you got gigging anywhere?
Yeah, we're playing June 7th at the Rock Pile here in Toronto, and
Nice.
it's a big, real serious rock club. Ace Frehley's played there, Yngwie Malmsteen,
Nice.
and Michael Schenker. So we play there about twice a year,
Nice.
right? And there's some other shows we're working on right now. I
Nice.
can't confirm them though.
Yeah. And one more thing I wanted to ask. Have you ever thought about re-recording any of the Rapid Tears stuff?
Yes. Frankly, I had the opportunity to get. I had a bunch of cassette tapes of our rehearsals, and I ran into a guy that was able to digitize them and turn them all into CDs, so they're not gonna fall apart like
Disappear,
a
yeah.
tape
Yeah.
will. Yeah, dissipate. And yeah, I've been actually piecing together a bunch of the songs, and I've been in contact with the singer from Rapid Tears. He's in
Nice.
Sweden, and so we have 5 or 6 songs right now on the go for a new Rapid Tears album. It's just, yeah, it's
That would
just
be
a matter-
awesome.
Yeah, and they're all songs that were not released before. They were just in demo form. And there's actually a girl here in Toronto that found some of our demos and asked me if I don't even know where she got them. She told me the names of the songs. And I went, okay, well, we had about 200 songs registered. I don't remember those. And yeah, it's funny. If you look at all the Rapid Tears songs that are registered, the list is like that long, right? Of song titles. It's like, wow. I don't even remember how half of these go. But she sent me the recordings of the demos. and one of them was called Housebreaker. I remember that. So those songs, those two songs, whatever else they are, they're going to come out on her compilation album. Um, I'm not sure what she's going to call it, but I think it's Canadian metal of some sort. It's kind of associated with that book, Eve of Darkness. Did you ever see that? It's about the Toronto or Canadian metal scene.
No, I'll have to look that up. What's it called?
Yeah, I'll show it to you. It's yeah, Eve of Darkness. This is the back of the book, Eve of Darkness, and it's
wow,
pretty thick book. And Rapid Tears, here's a singer from Anvil, right?
Yeah.
But Lips. But before Anvil, here's Rapid Tears. Remember the song Electric Shockwave?
Yeah.
So here's
I was
half the
just
band.
listening to that.
Yeah, where's the other half of that picture? Let's see. Yeah, it's cool. We got Triumph mentioned in there.
Triumph is
And,
another band. Come on, Triumph
yeah.
was great.
See. And then there's yeah, it's funny how they took the picture of us. That's me down there in Rapid Tears. And then the other half of the band is there, right?
Nice.
And but anyways, the album that the compilation album has to do with this book, Eve of Darkness. It's a pretty good book. And
I'll have to
it's nice
check
and
that
thick.
out. Put the link down below too. Get your Canadian heavy metal history lesson with Eve of Darkness. Oh yeah, I want to
Eve
check
of
that
Darkness.
out. Eve of Darkness.
Yeah, it's a good book. They put out another book about 10 years before that with it was about the 80s punk scene in in Toronto, right?
That's interesting because I don't know any Canadian punk bands really.
Oh, really? It was quite something. Back when we were doing metal and punk was on the forefront, it was like you're either punk or you're metal,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's a big division between the two. It's kind of like the mods and the rockers over in London, England,
right?
Yeah.
No,
So,
but Michael, it's
I don't know if I even answered the question. You asked me something I got off on a tangent with the book.
no. It was talking about Rapid Tears re-recordings. You answered it.
Oh yeah. So there's a number of songs that I did up the new versions and I sent them over to Sweden, and the singer has his own studio over there, and he's going to be producing the album. I said I'll get the material together here and I'm going to send it to you, and you can go ahead and engineer and produce it, because I'm busy doing a new MJM album. I can't be doing two albums at the same time with my busy life, right? So yes, there should be another Rapid Tears album if all
that would be awesome.
continues on.
That would be great. It would be great to see if you guys could get on some of these festivals, like do one-off appearances too. That would be awesome. I'm sure people would love that.
Yeah, we're open for gigs right now. It's just a weird market, you know. It's Canada and it's difficult. We want to be on the stage. I'd rather, honestly, I'd rather be on the stage 5 nights a week instead of teaching. But at least I make a living playing my guitar.
That's the way you got to look at it, because I've known very few people now that can actually make music for a living, because it's that much harder to do. So, Michael, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much. Anything else you want to say before we go?
Well, I want to say it's been really cool, Shane, to be on your show, Vulgar Display of Gaming. We had one hell of a time talking about the rock and roll game, and I love all those vintage machines you have back there. Really cool. Thanks so much for having MJM on your show, and everybody, keep your ears open for the Tim Ripper Owens version of Live It Up. The video will be on YouTube in the next week or so. Well, we're releasing it this week. So, and keep your ears open for anything coming up, and listen to our previous album. It's all metal and it's all written for you. The people that want to headbang and do rock and roll the way it's supposed to be. Unadulterated rock and roll.
Hell yeah. Everybody, thanks for tuning in.